Welcome everyone into episode 2 of the Know Her Name podcast on the Kentucky Sports Radio Podcast Network. As always, this episode is sponsored by our very good friend Tanya Witt over at Rise Up Sports Media. You can check out everything that she's got going on at riseupsportsmedia.com. The goal of her platform is to put a bigger emphasis on women's sports, particularly high school sports here across the state of Kentucky. And we hope to try and help progress that movement as much as we can. And today we're going to dive right back into another episode. It's been about 2 weeks since we've rolled one out here. As always, I'm Zach Gagan with Kentucky Sports Radio. With me, I have Grant Grubbs, also with KSR covering the women's basketball team. And then we have Alex White, who I'm just referring to as our basketball expert at this stage because she's been doing this on this level for a long, long time. So she knows what's going on. They both know what's going on. Today, we've got a jam-packed episode coming up. Robyn Benton is our special guest interview of the day. We talked to her for about 10, 15 minutes earlier in the week. She gave us some cool stories about just growing up in Auburn and coming to Kentucky and things like that. And we're going to recap the last 2 games for the women's team. They had a really tough win against Florida and then an even tougher loss against Mississippi State on Sunday. So they're going to dive right into that and then do a preview of the 2 games that are to come this week on Thursday and Sunday. So Grant, Alex, go ahead and take it away and let's dive right into episode 2.
All right. Well, obviously, thank you all for listening to episode 2. I guess we're going to start it off, like Zach said, with a quick recap of Kentucky's past 2 games. They had a whole week bye between the 2, so there wasn't that much action from last podcast and this time. But what did you think of that first game against Florida, Alex?
Man, I thought at first I was worried. We got down 16 in the first half, and I was kind of worried about where we were going from there. But I was beyond impressed with their fight and the way that they came back and got the victory in that. And a road victory at that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like you said, it was a tough win. They were down big, I believe, early in the second quarter. If I remember correctly, it was 16 points.
Yes.
But their guards came through. I think that was my biggest takeaway. Maddie Shear, Robyn Benton, and Jada Walker combined for 65, 66 points, I believe.
Yes.
They were impressive off the charts.
Absolutely. And really, they have been. I was looking the last 3 games, they have made up at least 78% of our scoring, just those 3 alone. So really, yeah, our guard play has been phenomenal. You can't really ask for much better than what they've given.
Yeah, and that extra 10% or wherever you're going to find it before the kind of bench players is Blair Green. So, those 4 together are just been dynamite lately.
Absolutely.
Another big thing I noticed from the Florida game was they only shot 2 of 16 from beyond the arc, which they've struggled all year with 3-point shooting. But the difference was they found a way to win despite that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I kind of get scared whenever we're not hitting our threes, because we've kind of, I think, throughout the season realized when we're hitting, it's a lot easier for us to be in games or winning them. And so I was kind of nervous when our shots weren't falling, but for them to be able to still pull out the win, that's really impressive when you're shooting that bad.
Yeah, it's massive. And Coach Elsie said after the game, that I think the big difference was before they would just keep launching those threes and praying they'd go in. And they kind of figured out in the second half, let's just drive the ball to the hoop and get some easy baskets. Early in that fourth quarter, Robyn Benton had 2 back-to-back tough and ones. She's talking to the cameraman on the baseline. That's just such a huge confidence boost and momentum boost for that team going into the fourth.
Yeah, absolutely. The energy, it was instantly picked up. Whenever we're taking it, and we were taking it strong, but it was just still creating around the basket was so impressive by our guards, especially because our post players, when we were getting it into them, it's not like they were able to get as much going. So for them to be able to do it around the basket was so impressive.
For sure. Well, moving on. So they picked up their first win, had a little water bottle party there in the locker room, as we saw, and they had a nice week break until they took on Mississippi State. So, Alex, that one finished with UK falling to Mississippi State 77-76, a heartbreaker. What did you think about that game?
Yeah, that was a heartbreaker, especially because, I mean, it felt like really we were kind of in control for majority of that game. So, I mean, that one was rough. It came down really to the end, and just, I mean, I hate that that's how it ended with the Robyn Benton. Just, I mean, obviously she thought she got fouled on that, and that's up for debate. But I hated that they fought so hard for all of that game just for that to end up being the result.
Yeah, and I mean, Mississippi State is a good team. They're 4-3. They're positive in SEC play, the toughest conference in the nation. They're a good team, and Kentucky took them right there. So that still shows growth. Like you said, I hated it for Robyn. She scored, I think it was 9 straight at one point in the fourth quarter. I mean, she was just taking over. But at least now she knows she can do that, and hopefully she doesn't wait until the fourth quarter every time to explode like that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's a tough loss. I hate any close losses, but especially a 1-point loss when you feel like you kind of had, I mean, they were trying to deny her from getting the ball in, and she still was able to get it. That's really who you want their hands on, and that's really who you want to have their hands on the ball at the end. Yeah. So, just hate that had to be the ending after such a hard-fought game.
And you mentioned there at the end, I mean, it's arguable whether or not she got fouled, but they certainly weren't hesitating to call fouls that game. Maddie had 5 and fouled out.
Yep.
Wasn't even playing the last 2 minutes. And she still finished with nearly 20 points. And then Nia Leveretter and Robyn Benton both had 4, so they're having to play cautious. I mean, foul trouble's been an issue for this team, but it was massive in that game against Mississippi State.
And I think that was kind of why it was so upsetting at the end that they didn't call something like that, just because if you're staying consistent with how they had been calling that whole game, they would have called that foul. So that part kind of, I mean, not the best way to lose, but I mean, I think there's such competitors that they're going to use that almost as motivation going into these next few games.
For sure. Well, breaking out of the recap and moving on a little bit more into like the discussion points and our takeaways from these past couple games, I'd first say, and we have it written down here, is the UK bigs. I mean, they just have to be better. We talked on and on those past 2 games, the trio of Robyn Benton, Maddie Shear, Jada Walker, both times they scored 60 plus combined. In the last game against Florida, the bigs of Nia Leveretter, Asia Petty, and Adebola Adeyeye, they didn't score. That's just, you're not going to win many games that way.
Definitely. And I mean, like I said, some of the guard play is them getting it inside and scoring in almost like creative ways around the basket. So you would think our post players should be able to kind of take some of that. Obviously, they're not going to be able to move in some of the same ways as our guards can. But I mean, there's still moves they can make that I know they are capable of finishing. They've shown it before. So it's just like that we're just not getting the production. And it also, I mean, as kind of goes to the defensive end too, because it looks like, I mean, against Florida, they had 40 of their points in the paint and 46 for Mississippi State in the paint. So it's like they're scoring a lot in the paint as well.
Yeah, and it's not much. I don't know what they can do besides trying to get them to slow down when they're in there, because a lot of times it's not that they're not finishing, like you said, it's that they don't even get to shoot because they're walking or freaking out with the ball before they ever get up a shot. I think, Jen Hoover bringing her in over the offseason as a bigs coach should be able to help with that, but we'll see. There's still time in the season.
Absolutely, yes.
Another topic for sure that we should hit on is, although they may not be playing great, them and the whole entire team is playing hard, undeniably, and that showed up massively in these past 3 or 4 games.
Definitely. I mean, from start to finish, you cannot question how hard they're playing. And that's what I honestly love to see. There's nothing I hate more than watching teams lose just because of pure effort. So just at least not having to complain about that is, I mean, a massive positive.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, obviously the Florida game, that comeback, that fight was there, but honestly, the loss may have been even more impressive from that standpoint. I mean, they were down 6 points with 1:50 left. They had no right to even be in that game. And Jada and Robyn just refused to go away. Like, if I was a Mississippi State player, I would be so annoyed by them. But, that's
especially with Maddie out.
Yeah, absolutely, without Maddie out. So I don't know. They're fighting. They just got to start finding a little bit more consistency.
Absolutely, yes. And I think, well, who was it? Against South Carolina, we struggled at the free throw line too, which isn't something you saw. So like kind of some of those things. But I mean, you really can't. I mean, their fight, you really can't question it. And so that's a massive positive, I think, for Kyra Elzy, especially watching her team.
Yeah. Moving, off the court a little bit and onto TV. This past week, we saw a SEC Inside Special on the Kentucky women's basketball program, which was really cool for everybody. What were some interesting things that you picked out from that you found specifically interesting or intriguing?
I really liked kind of seeing how their like attitudes behind the scenes. So you could just see how competitive the players were in a different sense than when you see them on the floor. So you saw like some clips from practice and stuff like that. And you could just see in their face like how determined they are even in those situations, which we don't always get to see when we're just watching them play the games. So I really liked that part. And then obviously the rage room, I love that idea. And I love that that's something that she took them to do. And I think you could tell by their reactions, it was something that they felt was so needed for them as a team too.
Yeah, I mean, when you lose 4 or 5 SEC games in a row, I think I was ready to go into that rage room with them and slam some things around. So, I can't fault them, and that was really fun. Going to the practice, it was interesting. I mean, we've sat in on some live practices with Coach Elzy and stuff before, but seeing more of a closed environment, just how oriented on detail she is. I mean, they mess up anything, and she rewinds and has them do it again over and over. I thought that was really impressive.
Absolutely. And I think that that really speaks to, we've kind of seen how good they've been as far as bringing defensive intensity, forcing turnovers, stuff like that all season. And I think that practice and seeing how in particular she has to, like, she makes everything, I think that really kind of shows why they're so good on the defensive end, just because she does. I mean, we saw clips on both ends of the floor, obviously, in practice, but she just focuses so much on all the little things. So if you're even like a half step out of place, I mean, she's going to stop it and make sure you need to be here and why you need to be here. So I think that's really big.
Yeah. And obviously for players like Robyn Benton, we've seen how that has helped her. So, unless you have something else, Alex, would you want to hop into that interview with Robyn Benton?
Yeah, let's go into it. All right, Robyn. So starting things off, you were the number 17 player in the nation coming out of high school. Thinking back to that time, what do you think kind of set you apart as one of the best players in that 2018 class?
Well, when I first got ranked, I was number 99, which is crazy because like 99 out of 100, that's so funny. But my junior year on the AAU circuit, we had won Nike Nationals my sophomore year, so I was kind of on the radar then for like an up and coming like good guard in 2018. But then my junior year, I had a really good summer. Like I had probably like one of the best summers you could have, and we won Nike Nationals again. We went back to back, and I really did perform well. Like from when did we start? April. So, from Boo Williams all the way to Nike Nationals, I just had a great summer. And then like our point guard had went down, and I had to be point guard. So like I literally just showed that I could be a 1, a 2, and a 3. And Dan Olsen literally told my mom, he was like, man, that was like one of the best summers I've seen from a guard in a long time. And then next thing you know, I was ranked number 17.
Robyn, it's kind of funny that you mentioned like that you were ranked number 99, the fact that you remember that sort of thing, because it always seems like you kind of play with this chip on your shoulder, whether, it's talking to the cameras or mean mugging after an and one. Have you always been like that, or is that something that you've kind of developed?
Yeah, I've always been like that. Especially like in the 6th grade. I mean, my family, all we do is talk trash to each other. I mean, it's really not good, but at the same time, it is good because it makes you tough. But like my dad, huge trash talker. Oh my goodness. My mom, my brother. Like we literally grow up in it. And if you're not talking trash and backing it up, it's gonna be hard for you to live in that house. Like, I really got it from my family, but I grew up like that. I grew up playing like that. Like I mentioned in the 6th grade, we played at College Park, Godby Road. I mean, if you weren't tough and had thick skin, you were gonna get ate alive out there. So I'm just I grew up like that, and my parents, they were like that too when they played sports. So I guess it just rubbed off on me.
And then kind of going off of that, you also seem to like really strive in like big moments. Do you feel like that like yourself? Like, do you feel like whenever it's a big moment, big shot needed, like, do you feel like you want to be the one called on for that?
I guess so at this point. I watch a lot of basketball. Like my first favorite NBA player was Carmelo Anthony. I just loved the way that he shot the ball. It was amazing. I remember I watched one game when I was 12 years old. He was at the Garden and he literally just put the team on his back. I was like that is what I want to do. I literally, after I watched that game, I literally went to go shoot in my driveway because it was amazing. Like he put on a show, and I'm just like, that's what I want to be like.
Yeah. Like obviously because of things like that, you've developed this reputation and nickname as Showtime or Prime Time. I hear Coach Elsie. Is it Coach Elsie calls you Showtime? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the difference between these two, and which one do you prefer?
I've been called Prime Time since the 7th grade. People back home, they know my name. They know that's my name.
Okay.
When I got here, LZ started calling me Showtime. And so everybody thinks my nickname is Showtime when it's really Prime Time. But everybody's calling me, Prime Time, Showtime. I got a shirt coming out about it soon. I don't care what they call me. At this point,
Is there
people back home, man.
Is there a way that nickname kind of originated, or?
Probably like I said, the 7th grade. I don't know what song. I don't forgot the song, but I don't know. I just like the name Prime Time, and I wasn't even thinking about Dion because I didn't really know Dion. But now I know who Dion is. I don't know. I really used to block shots like when I was young, and I used to like really like put on a show afterwards. Like when I was young, like I really couldn't shoot until like 7th and 8th grade, but like 5th, 6th grade, I used to block people's shots. Like that is what I was known for. Anybody that's close to me that grew up to me, they will tell you that is what I used to do. Like I used to block a shot, go like this, or scream. I don't know, like. So yeah, that's where really Prime Time came from. Yeah.
So you're a player that's been through a lot of injuries throughout, really dating back to high school. What do you tell yourself like during those times when you're having to sit out? Do you kind of use it as motivation for when you get back out onto the floor?
Yeah, I've been through a lot of gruesome injuries that's had me out for like months. So like this pinky situation, it still hurts, but it's like I'd rather take that than be out for 6, 7 months. So it just comes with the territory sports. You get hurt. I just try to push through it, and push through it and just have a level head.
Obviously you pushed through it this season, Robyn. You're yet to score less than 10 points in a game when last season you're averaging 8.8. What's kind of been that difference this year that's allowed you to make that leap?
Well, I think last year I was on a roll until I really just hurt both my ankles. That really just slowed me down. I felt like I probably could have kept that average if I hadn't got hurt, but I got hurt. So and then I was probably the third or fourth option on the team last year. You had Ryan, Dre, Jazz, Treasure, me. I was probably the third or fourth option. They were mainly the shot takers, and this year I guess I'm the number one option. I'm taking all the shots. And that's probably the biggest difference. This is a totally different team from last year. And I had a different role last year. My role was to, help the team, help Ryan. And this year, we lost a lot of production. So I had to step it up.
Definitely. And I know you've mentioned like Carmelo Anthony, but who's a player that you kind of look up to, kind of imitate your game to now?
Well, I'm a big Hawks fan. I've really been watching DeJounte Murray a lot. I really like the way that he plays. I like Trae Young. On the women's side, I always like Tiffany Mitchell. I like Kalia Copper. I hope I'm saying her name right. I like Chelsea Gray's pretty good. But for NBA, I've really been watching DeJounte and Trae a lot. I like John. But I've really been dialed in on DeJounte. I really like the way he plays. I like the way Donovan Mitchell plays too. Those dynamic guards.
Definitely.
Robyn, we talked about your high school days and now college, looking towards the future. I know you're a journalism major, right? Or at least you want to go into kind of sports broadcasting type stuff. Is that correct? What do you kind of hope to do in that path? And who are some people you kind of look up to and want to model your style after?
Well, y'all probably don't know this, but I watch because I want to be on that show. I guess I look up to Stephen A. I don't know. I just like watching him. But that show is entertaining. Like, did y'all see him yesterday?
I wasn't tuned in yesterday.
Oh man, he was on Michael Irvin's head about Dallas Cowboys losing, and he had the pinky suit from the Friday movie on. He had on a wig, a Jerry curl wig. Like, I felt like I want to be like entertaining, but also informational. I feel like that's what that show is about. It's informational, but it's also very entertaining. Like, I watch it every morning. I want to be on a show like that, or I want to be like Candace Parker or Maria Taylor, sports analyst. I want to be in the studio. I thought I wanted to be on the sideline, but no, not no more. I want to be in the studio. But like the TNT show, like I know Candace, she's sometimes on it. She's not always on it, but she be with Charles Barkley, Kenny, Shaq. Like, I want to be on those type of shows like that. Yeah.
Definitely. So I think kind of to wrap things up, we have a few quick hitter questions regarding your teammates. So just gonna go through those real quick and then we'll let you go after that. So for starters, who would you say is your funniest teammate?
They say I'm the funniest, so let me think. How to say who the funniest is? I don't know. Sanaya's always laughing at everything. Either Sanaya or Kennedy Cambridge.
And who's the best dancer on the team?
Sanaya.
Who is the quote unquote mom of the team?
Blair.
Who's the most competitive?
Probably Maddie.
Which teammate would you want next to you during a fight?
Maddie.
And then is there anyone with a hidden talent that you can think of?
Amia Jenkins can sing. I just found that out. Even though she doesn't like singing in front of people, I'm like, what kind of singer are you then? Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, me and Tree is Tiana, I don't know. Tree is we went to her mom's crib and she sang for us. But we couldn't look at it. It was weird. But yeah, she can sing.
Well, we'll have to maybe make her debut here on the podcast or something.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking with us, Robyn, and hopefully it wasn't too hard on you or anything. We appreciate your time, obviously.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So going into this week and next, we have Auburn up next. What are your thoughts, Grant, on the Auburn game coming up?
It's winnable. It is one of the more winnable games we've played in a while. Auburn is, I believe they have 2 wins in the SEC. They're slightly ranked above us. But, we were right there with Mississippi State, who was higher than the middle of the pack team. If we can't beat this Auburn team, we're in trouble for the rest of the season. So this will be a big kind of measuring stick for this Kentucky women's basketball team.
Absolutely. And as we were just discussing, at this point last season, when they hit that 9-11 mark, which is what they would be if they got this loss to Auburn, that is when we went on a run. But I think this is a little bit of a different situation because if we lose that to Auburn, then we have only tougher games coming after that. Yeah. So we would have to really kind of step it up in a different sense. But it is, Auburn's definitely a winnable game. And I think that we just got to do whatever we can to get that win. And obviously Robyn Benton's old school, so she's going to come out with a chip on her shoulder as well in that one.
If you didn't pick that up from the interview, I think Robyn's still a little upset about the Mississippi State Mississippi State loss. So I have a feeling she's going to come out with some passion against her old school.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned, that last year's streak, and I'm trying to think how we can even come close to replicating something like that with this year's team. And I'm not sure they can. The issue is last year's team, the reason they struggled so much was injuries and occasional suspensions.
Yes.
There was times where they were playing with 7 players on their whole entire roster. That's not an issue for this year's team. So instead, there's going to have to be some sort of tweak on the court to make a change. Do you have any ideas what that could be, or just any other thoughts on it, Alex?
Honestly, something that we've kind of mentioned earlier in the episode, which is I think getting more of a post presence. I think if we can kind of keep the guards going and their momentum going, but then get more production from our post players, I think even just that can make a world of difference.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think they honestly don't even have to have offensive production. They just have to have when they give it to the post, it's not they're just losing the ball, throwing away possessions. If they're just playing their role, like Coach Elsie said, and they're setting pick and rolls well, they're getting on the boards, we're fine. The guards have enough talent to score, but they can't just throw away possessions when they do give the bigs the ball.
Absolutely. And I think, honestly, the big thing is if they do continue turning it over when they touch it, how long is it going to take some of these teams to just start double teaming our guards and kind of just leave the post and hope that they can recover and still get stops on them? So if they can just get good passes out when they're in the post, kind of draw some of that help and then get some good passes to the guards. Even that I think would make a huge difference because right now, really our guards are creating a lot of their looks.
Yeah, most of Robyn Benton's shots, unless it's off a Maddie Shear assist, is a step back between the legs, 17-footer.
Yes.
So it would definitely help if they could be a little bit of a threat to allow our guards to get a little bit of a kick out and more open shots. I'm just more so concerned, even more so than teams doubling our bigs, our guards losing faith in our bigs and just stop passing them altogether.
Yeah.
The last thing you want is team chemistry issues, but with this squad, I feel like that's not an issue.
Yeah, they're so competitive that hopefully it's not.
Yeah. Do you have a kind of prediction for the Auburn game, Alex?
If I had to make one, I would give us about a 8-point win, I would say, in that game.
Yeah, I like that. I would honestly probably go around the same. I'd say we win by about 6 points, somewhere around maybe more, honestly. Actually, I'm going to give us a 12-point win.
Hey,
and I would say 72-60 if I
awesome.
had to put a number down. But
Yeah.
I think Kentucky is playing better than their record shows, and I think LZ will 100% have them ready after that Mississippi State loss.
Yes, and I think, honestly, the fight they showed against LSU and South Carolina, I think that really is going to help, especially in the long run, because it kind of showed that you can compete with those teams. Now, I mean, we may not have stayed in it till the end, but I mean, we showed that we can compete with them for at least time periods.
Absolutely. Well, do you have anything else, Alex? Or
no, I think that's all.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening to the second episode of the Know Her Name podcast, and continue to tune in with us as we follow Kentucky women's basketball.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.